That's my wish for all four of you, right? To have these beautiful, loving, respectful relationships, and for your children.
Because Maria, it can be done.
It can. We still have hope for us.
Hi, I'm Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt, host of BDA Baby.
And I'm Maria Shriver, proud mom to Katherine and her siblings, and proud Mama G to her kids.
The role grandmothers play has evolved over the years, but one thing that stayed the same is how important they are to our families.
And it looks different for every family, so we wanted to dive deep into the joys and some of the ups and downs of navigating grandmotherhood and all the lessons learned in between.
Gayle King is the co-host of CBS Mornings, editor-at-large of Oprah Daily, and now a grandmother, or Gayla, as she likes to be called.
That's right. Her favorite daughter, Kirby, that's her name for Kirby, gave birth to a beautiful boy, Luca, in 2021, and they're both joining us today.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We know you guys are so busy, mothers doing everything. But
as are you, Katherine.
You too.
Yes.
We know. It's a whole thing. But we're so excited to talk to both of you about multi-generational parenting. We know, Gayle, you have 2.5 years into grandmotherhood.
Yes.
My mom is 3.5 years into grandmotherhood. So these are all, and Kirby, I'm excited to talk to you about the boundaries, which is a new term that's been popping up a lot in this, or lack thereof.
Do they exist?
Kirby, why are you saying, oh God, about boundaries? I think I handle this very well.
Mommy, do you know what a boundary is?
Kirby, let's start with Kirby, right? Because Kirby, how would you rate Gayle in her new, but she doesn't call grandmotherhood, but her in her grandmother.
She calls it grandmotherhood, but it's not, she doesn't use the word grandma.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a very important distinction. Yes. Mom Luca is very much her grandson, but mom does not like to be called a grandmother.
No.
We actually let Luca kind of name her. We started with a few different names. Where did we start, Mom? Where did
Gaia.
We started with Gaia. What's the definition of Gaia?
Because I wanted something, guys, it sort of sounded like Gayle. So I didn't want to be called Gayle. Maria, you'll like this. One day I saw Anna Wintour at a tennis match and I said, Anna, what do your grandchildren call you? And she said, Anna. I go, Anna? I don't want to be called. She goes, yes, that's my name. I go, well, I don't want to be called by my first name, but I want something that's kind of like Gayle. So I came up with Gaia because Gaia means Mother Earth. And then I was on Seth's show and he goes, well, that's a little extra. I didn't think that. I thought that was actually kind of cute. So we were trying to say Gaia. Ellen DeGeneres said, well, he could just call you Miss Lady. Didn't like that either. So I came up with Gaia, which I thought was good. And then he changed it to Gayla, which I think is perfect.
Oh,
now she's Gayla.
Now I'm Gayla.
Adorable.
Yes.
I remember she asked me what was my name. And so I told you what I was called, which is Mama G.
Yeah,
and you're
both of you don't like the grandma.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, that's kind of good. Where did you come up with that? And you kind of went back and forth with me. But we were both kind of saying we didn't want to be called grandma. And I really didn't want to be called grandma because that was my mother to you. She kind of owned grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just didn't want to be called that, Maria, because it sounded old. But Maria, before the baby came, before your first grandchild came, you said you were going to be called Ave, like Ave Maria. That's what you told me.
I was.
That's what you told me, and I really like that
for bringing that up.
Yes. Well, of course, I thought I would be.
Katherine.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
Yeah, I wanted to be called Ave Maria, but that didn't work out. So I ended up as Mama G.
No, you're definitely.
I love Mama G.
Yeah,
you do.
I like it too. But how is your mom doing in the role? Because Gayle and I came from different schools of parenting, I think, than you guys.
Different schools of parenting and also different levels of involvement with grandparents. Like, our experience with grandma was she lived across the country. We live 5 minutes apart. You guys live across the country. So it's, it's a unique role, and it's also ever changing, which is why we're doing this.
But Katherine is much stricter with like the schedule than I was. She's, she's really got a timed out
Kirby also
situation.
shaking her head.
Yes, I would say this mom is off the charts in terms of being a Gaila. She's fantastic. She has a great relationship with Luca. He's nuts about her. When she comes to visit, and yes, she does live on the other side of the country, but she finds herself in LA, whether it's for an interview or event
or makeup
seems like
stuff.
There are a lot of those things that just pop up. I think I may have been pushed out of the way a few times for mom to get to go see Luca.
Yes, that's true.
And I'm like, I'm still here. Hello. But no, I think, the relationship they have is beautiful and, just very, very exciting. But in terms of schedules, yes, we have definitely had a difference of opinion. I know in parenting, there are lots of schools of thought, lots of different ways to do it. And you have to find what works for you. And
sleep training was annoying.
What worked well for us was sleep training. And
annoying.
So we were a family that had Luca on a schedule, especially in those early days. And mom made it very clear that she was from the thinking that you should not wake a sleeping baby. And so there was a little bit of a difference of opinions whenever mom would come to visit in terms of how the schedule would go that day.
Yes, Maria, back in the day, you put the baby down, and when the baby wakes up, the baby wakes up. I never heard of this. You got to wake up the baby. You got to feed the baby. You got to put him down. That just seemed crazy talk to me. So
well, that's been an issue, not an issue, but it's been something that I've learned from Katherine to have a very strict schedule. And she's very strict with the meals. She's very strict with the sleep schedule. She's like, you cannot pick her up at this time because that's when she takes the nap. You cannot not pick her up at this time. That's when her lunch is. You have to have the dinner. So I'm like, well, can we just go with the flow a little bit? So there's no flow. No flow going here.
But now there's a flow. You get to pick her up. I get her back crazed on sugar. And new toys, takes her to a toy store all the time, gives her sugar all the time. So I've relaxed a lot, but definitely I think that you've also been, and I don't know, Kirby, how you've dealt with difference of parenting styles with your mom, but I feel like you've also been from the very beginning. You will share your experience with raising the four of us. Mm-hmm. And then also with the sleep, you'll say, okay, if that's what, you want to do, there's, that can be your thing. That's been a subject that's come up, is kind of how do you offer your advice as a grandparent, but then also not seem judgmental if your child, the new parent, doesn't take your advice. Has that come up between the two of you?
Yeah, I'd say I've received a little judgment, but it's
judgment. Judgment on what, Kirby?
For sure, sleep training. You've shared your opinion. You freely shared your opinions on that.
I just thought about something else, because I said no, Luca, and she said, we don't tell him no. We don't think that you should say no. We can't say no.
I think it's interesting. That's how mom received that, because what I said was, we don't say no, don't throw your spoon on the floor. What we say is, put your spoon on the tray. So instead of, saying no and what you don't want them to do, you say what you actually want them to do.
And I said, no, don't do that.
when he was one, he still, they very much, at least from our experience, it feels like it's better and easier in terms of getting him to do what we like him to do by telling him what we want him to do, as opposed to telling him what we don't want him to do.
Yes. So we weren't allowed to say no. Oh, that's how I received it. Okay.
It was more so what followed the no.
Oh,
so I love what Kirby's also saying. It's what we, meaning your husband and yourself, that's our philosophy. So how does your mom do? And then Gayle. So it's not just Kirby that you're dealing with. It's not just Luca. You have a son-in-law as well. Yes. So are you mindful of him and your time with them, or how do you navigate
very much
that?
So. Very much so. And I will ask him too, is it okay if I stay this weekend? Because sometimes I'll come to LA and I'll say, is it okay, especially during COVID, is it okay to stay at your house, or is it better if I stay in a hotel? Especially if you're working, you have hair and makeup. I don't want them coming to the house. But I would always ask both of them. I wouldn't just ask Kirby. I would double check with him too. So I'm very mindful that, that they are very much a unit and very much a couple. And what they say matters more than whatever it is what I'm saying.
Katherine, sometimes I'll say, well, she'll invite me somewhere. I said, well, I should check that with Chris because I don't want to just be like popping up all the time and everywhere. Yes. She said, you don't have to check with Chris. I'm like, no, I think I need to check with Chris.
Because before I check with him. And
I know,
then
but I think also for us grandparents, it's not just our child, right?
Yes.
And your son has just gotten engaged. So it's not, what is the right protocol there, Kirby, you think? Because we talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Mom and I will usually have a conversation first, and then, I'll say like, Mom, let me just check with Virgil. And the answer is 100% of the time, yes, sure, whatever. But I think it's more so just like respecting that relationship, respecting like, the relationship of our marriage and the family that we're building together. I feel very, very grateful though that Mom and my husband Virgil get along really well.
We do.
Because that would make this a much more different conversation. So, for us, we kind of over communicate more so just for the sake of like respect and, being super clear, but it's less about asking permission really.
But I think that is because we've talked to a lot of people where there is a challenge with a spouse, right? Mm-hmm. The grandparent and the spouse maybe don't get along, or the grandparent and a new daughter-in-law maybe don't get along, or there's a clash of parenting styles.
We've also talked about, the fact that the dynamic changes when a child comes into the world. So what the dynamic was as a married couple is very different when you bring kids into the world, and then all of a sudden in-laws, the relationship and dynamic with in-laws is maybe different because someone offers opinions. One person doesn't like that. Someone overstays their welcome. So how was that for both of you? Has it been smooth sailing the whole time, or was there a moment that made it smoother?
I personally think it's been smooth sailing. Listen, from the moment Luca was born, Kirby had the baby, and I flew from New York to LA, and I made it before they even came home from the hospital. Because I was so, by the time they were checking out and all that good stuff, I was on a plane. Number one, I wanted to be in the delivery room. I was told that could not happen. Okay. I wanted to be in the hospital. I was told that could not happen. All right. Can I just be there when he comes home? So when they told me that they were checking out, I got on a plane, and Will and I, her brother who lives in LA, we were there at their front step when she came home from the hospital. So
it's true.
But I had checked ahead of time. Is it okay? Can I be there when you guys come home?
And we wanted you there. We wanted you at the house, and you were a big help, and that was great.
Yes, Maria, I was very helpful. It was very helpful.
You
now,
were
Gayle,
very
I'm interested, Gayle, did you know what kind of grandmother you wanted to be, and how was that influence? Is it something you thought about and really wanted to do well?
I just wanted to, because my mom died when Kirby and Will were 2 and 3 and 4. So they vaguely remember her, but they don't really remember her. And so I just knew that I wanted my grandson to know me. That was very important to me. So I knew that I wanted to be involved and engaged in his life in a way that he would know that I was his grandmother. I know he knows I'm Gayla, but I'm not sure he knows what Gayla is, but I know he knows that I'm somebody important to his mother and to Virgil. So
he knows that you love him, and he knows that he loves you. And I mean, that's what's most important.
Yeah, I do think that. But I wanted to, my deepest wish, knock on wood, is that I would live long enough that he would have a true sense of me. And so if something happens to me now at 2.5, he won't really remember. So I'm waiting. I already said, I want to be the one to take him to Lion King when he's 5. I want to do that. Just me and Luca by ourselves. I want to do that. So that I can have some kind of memory with him that he'll remember.
Mom is already calling dibs on lots of things, but also, I mean, mom is very comfortable with sharing her age, but Mom's 69 and looks fantastic. And so, for me, I just get really excited thinking about all the memories that they're going to be able to build together, and all of the activities that they're going to be able to do together. Look, they can go on walks. Mom can pick him up and, do all kinds of things that, I'm very grateful physically can still, happen. And I knock on wood, I see that happening for many more years to come.
Yeah, I hope so.
Kirby, was there something when you became a mom? This definitely happened for me. When I was younger, I always said there are certain things, maybe with your having rules or, chores when you're little, that I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do this one way. And now that I'm a mom, I'm like, I want to just do everything the exact same that my mom did with us. Is that something that you have thought about? I mean, Luca's obviously really young still, but just a lot of the ways that your mom parented you when you were younger and growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, my mom is the reason I wanted to become a mom. Like I have known since, I mean, truly, my mom she's been a phenomenal mom for me and my brother Will. And I've known from a young age more than the thing that I wanted more than anything was to become a mom. Like more than any job, more than any master's degree, more than anything was I want to be a mom because my mom has been such a great example of what a mom is and can be. And she loves it so much. And I was like, I
Yes.
want to do that. I want to feel that.
Yes.
And so, I think in terms of doing things differently, there I want to try to replicate as much of what she did as possible. I do look back at pictures and see all the like toys and junk and clutter. And I was like, our house is not going to look like that. Like we are going to be, it's going to be very organized and he doesn't need a million toys. Fast forward to 2.5 years later, I'm like, where did all these colors come from? How do all these toys have sounds? And so, I think there's something if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think mom did a really really great job, and I just would if I can do a fraction of what she did, I'd feel good about it.
But I do wish I'd done that better, though, guys, to say, okay, pick up your toys, put them away. But I was so busy, or
Yeah.
or to ask them to do it, it would take longer. So I do wish because you can start that at an early age and get them to understand that this is your responsibility and you need to put it away. That's not hard to do.
To be clear, Luca has a lot of toys, but he puts them away.
Does he?
Before nap time, before you go to bed, like you're putting your things away. So we sing the cleanup song.
Definitely way more organized than I ever was. And I look at kind of the kind of chaos that I had in your rooms and all the stuff, and she definitely does not have
a lot
that.
of colors.
But a lot of colors, a lot of stuff. But Gayle, when you
much.
hear Kirby say, the reason I wanted to be a mom, become a mom, is because my mom did it so well. What does that make you feel like?
Well, I mean, I'm so touched by that. I mean, I say to Kirby all the time, I'm so proud of her. I always say, you are your mother's daughter. The way that she handles different things, if there is a crisis or something needs to be corrected or something needs to be done. So I'm actually very, very proud of that. But I can remember when she was holding Luca one day and said, I love him so much. I just can't imagine. Did you love me this way? And it never struck me that of course I loved you that way. But I asked my mother that same question when Kirby was born. I can't imagine that you love me as much as I love Kirby. And my mother said, of course I did. I mean, so it's interesting to see that continuation of life. But
Yeah.
I'm very flattered that she feels that way and very honored that she feels that way.
Yeah, I think for me, again, I've only had Luca for 2.5 years, but I'm like, you felt like this about me for 37 years? Oh my gosh, how have you been living with this feeling inside of you? It's such, and you all know this as moms, like it's just such an incredible feeling. Like I think I'm just kind of blown away that, this is an experience that mom, you've known for many years and women all over the planet have known for many years. And so it's incredible to be able to experience it.
And Katherine, you must feel this, when Lila was first born, you think, I'm not going to love another baby as much as I love her. I can't possibly. Because I said that when Kirby, when we got pregnant again, I said, there's no way I can love another baby. And then the other baby comes and your heart just expands. So Maria, you have 4, I have 2, but your heart just really does expand with each child that comes.
It's so true. I remember saying that when I got pregnant with Eloise, I was like, what are we doing here? How is this going to work? And also for me, of course, I feel Kirby the same way about, always knowing you wanted to be a mom. It's going to make me emotional. always, I'm going to start crying.
Yeah, Katherine is the same. She always wanted to be a mom. She always, she always was like the one of those little girls that always took
I'm
care of the
also 8
babies.
years older than my youngest brother, so he was my child. But
Oh,
one of the things that I always say to you is like, since becoming a mom, I'm so emotional, but just like the amount of respect, and I'm sure Kirby, you have this with your mom, is like, you remember them working so much, being on the go, managing so much, and then you put kids on top of it and a marriage and like all these things, and you're just like, how did you even do that and manage that? So I feel like for me especially, I have always had respect for my mom, of course, but especially since becoming a mom, like my respect is like totally different.
Yeah. But I want to know, Kirby, like Gayle was saying, what she wants to be someone in your son's life, right? I had the same feeling, right? As like, I really want Lila and Eloise to know me, and then to be able to say long after I'm gone, my grandma was, my mama G played with me. She took me to the Nutcracker. She did, X, Y, and Z. What do you want your son to feel with your mom? What do you want him to get out of that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough time in this podcast to say all the things that I want him to feel. But, I think there's so many things about my mom that I think make her special. She's so loving, so kind, and just so happy and joyful. And I think that even though, she works really hard, she gets up at, what is it, 3:30 in the morning every day to be on TV.
3:24.
Excuse me, 3:24. And so, I think she has an incredible work ethic and incredible, just like joy for life. And so I'm excited for him to get to like see that and experience that. And, we didn't let him watch TV till he was 1. And so once he turned 1, we would turn on the news, so he could see like just a quick thing of Guyla on TV. And, he now points and he's like, Guyla. And so, I think that is really exciting, and that he's also starting to understand like Guyla has a life outside of when he sees her in person. He doesn't fully understand like what that is or what that means. But, I just want him to know that, Guyla is an incredible just force and person and energy in the world. So
plus Maria, Kirby, I always say favorite daughter Kirby and favorite son Will. They were 4 and 5 when I got divorced. And, back then you're told your kids are going to be all screwed up, all messed up, or the potential to be. And so I wanted to make sure that they always felt loved, that they always felt secure. It never occurred to me to not work. So I knew I was going to continue working, but also raising them as a divorced person. So I wanted them to feel loved and secure, and to feel that they could be happy, healthy human beings that could go on to have really happy, healthy relationships. And knock on wood, both of them have found that. And that makes me very, very happy. Because I worried about that. I worried about that.
Yeah, I worried about that too. And I feel exactly, and you and I have spoken about that. I feel exactly the same way. And I look at your relationship and it inspires me. I look at, and that makes me super happy. And that's my wish for all 4 of you, right? To have these beautiful, loving, respectful relationships. And for your children.
Because Maria, it can be done.
It can. We still have hope for us.
Yes, I keep hope alive. I'm alert and available, but it can be done.
I know. But wait a second now. I want to know, Kirby, do you let your mom take your son by herself? Are you hands off and just let them go and do their own thing?
Well, it's funny, on our recent family vacation, Mom and Will, my brother, actually took Luca to dinner so that Virgil and I could have a little date night while we were on
the resort
vacation.
property, Maria. It's not like
okay.
We didn't get in a car. We were in the resort property.
So you're not allowed to go off on your own. You're not allowed to go.
I may have asked them to use the stroller instead of taking a golf cart and holding him in their hands. But yes, I did. Just let them go.
It doesn't sound like you really let her have him by herself?
I haven't had it.
I haven't had it.
I hadn't really thought about it. But yeah, we can let's talk about it, Mom.
That's interesting, right?
Because
But
have you, Maria? Have you?
I do now, yes, because I asked for that. I used my voice, my little small voice, and said, I really feel like I can do this on my own. Like I think there was some doubt whether I could do this on my own, and I tried to explain that I have done this with 4 other human beings who are alive. So even
did you
though
have
the car
them both
seat
at the same time? Both at the same time?
No, I take one at a time. One.
Okay.
So I pick up Lila from school. I have to say the car seats.
That's what the big thing was, honestly. And I'm sure Kirby feels the same way, that the car seats, all you talk about is how heavy the car seats are, all the gear. You can't do the stroller. Everything's so much more complicated now than it was when you guys had kids. So then
now I have the car seat. I have the car seat in the car, so I go.
Installing a car seat is very difficult.
It is. It takes
a lot of adjusting.
Yes. So I just leave it there now. I leave it in there, and now I can have Lila on my own. But I am checked on very frequently while I am in possession of Lila on my own. Are you still okay? Have you
Maria,
given her food?
Where did you go?
Oh, I go to the park, and then after I'm at the park, I get a call. Did you Purell her hands? Did you clean? Did you do? Have you cleaned her off? Is the car seat clean? Please don't give her any food if you haven't Purelled her hands. Are you back at a safe location? Are you okay now? Can I come get her? I'm like, I think I can do this on my own. But yes,
and Maria, it's been half an hour.
But I do think this is interesting because, Mom, I didn't know that you wanted to take Luca anywhere. So
I would.
Okay, great. Let's figure it out.
I can help you on this, Gayle. I can help you use your voice. You have to ask for what you want, and then you have to be willing to be told, no, you cannot. I got a sleepover.
You did?
Yeah, and ask her how that went. Let me just tell you how the morning started. Was after the sleepover, my mom comes to me and she says, I need some time to myself now.
Because we were up quite a bit. But I think it's I feel so blessed that I get any time, right?
I don't want to do it full time. I don't.
No, I don't want to do it full time.
Now, if something happened to them, I would gladly do it. And I'd have no problem with it whatsoever. But right now, do I want to do it full time? No.
No, but there's a lot of people who are doing it full time or who kind of are full time babysitters. There's so many different kinds of arrangements today, which is what's super interesting. And I think kind of the idea of people are having these communications with their adult daughters or sons. And then Patrick just got engaged to a girl I love, but I anticipate that'll be different than when my daughter has a child.
That's what I wonder too, now that Will's engaged, because she has her mother, of course. Yeah. I just sort of feel they trump us,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. You know that thing, a daughter's a daughter for all of her life. A son is a son till he takes a wife. I think there's a lot of
I'm not down for that.
Nope.
I don't like
that.
I don't like that. But I assume I'm going to take a back seat in some way. I haven't figured that one out yet. And it seems to me communication is critical because Kirby, Katherine, you guys are learning so much that your mom and I didn't have. So there's so much influence on you. So we're having to learn about what you're learning about and adjust to the schedules and the ideas that you have that are very different from us, right?
But for the most part, I do try to stay in my lane and take my cues from them. I really do. I don't, there are a couple of times where I say, are you sure you want to do it like that? Or, I think he's hitting Slater a little too hard. Slater's her dog.
So she stays in her lane. I think I stay in my lane, although I'm not sure what lane it is.
No, because if anything, I encourage you to come out of your lane. I'd love if we all lived in one house together. And
would you, Katherine? Would you?
Oh I would love nothing more than to all live in one house together. I'd love my siblings to also live in that house together and to just all be
Kirby
under one roof.
Would you like me to live with you and Virgil?
I don't think we need to do one roof, but I think we could live closer. Right now, you're in New York, we're in California. It would be great if you were much closer. For sure.
I feel that. But you don't like the one roof idea.
It is interesting how you talk about the difference between, sons and daughters and the extended family and what that looks like. Because I think about my husband and I remember back when I was pregnant, and my husband actually said that his mother and grandmother wanted to be in the delivery room. And I was like, what? This is not a show. That is not happening. So, that is a whole nother relationship to just like navigate and figure out, okay, like, well, this is a whole new part of my relationship with them. And like, how do I navigate that? And what does that look like? And recognizing this is their grandchild too, but they won't be in the delivery room. So just to your point about the difference between sons and daughters, and how do you also show respect to the mothers on that side of the family, but also, set the boundaries that are right for you.
But that's interesting. How do you do that with your husband's mother?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very good relationship. I think I find myself being the one who's suggesting trips out there to go see them more than he is, which is
because they're on the East Coast. They're also
because they're on the East Coast, and so I'm like, we should set up a time to go see them, or they should come over here, because I do know the stereotype of the kids are usually closer to the mom side of the family, and it is important.
I'm okay with that.
Well, but it is important to me that Luca knows both sides of his family, because he does come from both sides of the family. So I think for me, I find myself being more so the one who's, trying to make sure that we get more time with that side, just because it's kind of easier to let it slip.
Yeah. But it's a balance, trying to figure out the balance between like one side of the family and another side, and how do both people feel included, and how do certain grandparents feel excluded, or feel like one grandparent is getting more time.
More than the other, yeah.
Right. And also I think that seems to be like a lot of people in your generation have moms and dads really the same age. Gayle and I are the same age.
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, you and Chris's mom are the same age. So I think that there's definitely a lot of involvement. And also, I mean, Kirby, when you're talking about Virgil, I think also, that's a conversation which we've talked about, Chris and I talked about from the very beginning when we first started dating. But
are his parents in LA, Katherine? Or his parents in LA?
His mom lives up north, but it's something that we see Patrick and Abby, my brother Patrick, who just got engaged to Abby, talk about is, your relationship with your family, how often you want to see them, their presence in your life, and, have those conversations before you have kids, because it is, if you come from a family that sees each other a lot, like we do, does a lot together, and you are with somebody who's not into that, that's definitely an important thing to clarify early on, because if you're living next, we all live 5 minutes apart from each other. Right. So it's an important dynamic to get on the same page about, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what the thing we wanted to do with this series was just show how involved grandparents are in their grandchildren's lives today, how meaningful those relationships are, how important they are in a whole range of ways, right? Mm-hmm. And how so many people like Gayle, like our age, want to redefine that role.
And it isn't one size fits all. It isn't. But I'm not going to be a distant grandmother. I want to be very involved as much as they'll let me. But I do think it's a key part of my life, and I want to be a key part of his life.
I love that.
And you're doing a great job, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you guys both so much. I know you're so busy. Key member of the life. That's the key.
That's the. I mean, you should see my kids' faces when they see my mom. It's definitely doesn't match when they see me. So.
Yeah, we got to get some men to look at us that way.
Yes, that would be nice, Maria. That would be nice. Put it out there in the universe.
That's
put it
right.
out there.
As long as our grandkids are looking at us that way, that at least gives us some sort of vision.
We're good.
We're good. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Gayle and Kirby.
Bye, you guys. Bye, Katherine.
Bye.